Okay, so this is the recording of the Gemara for Chav Gimel Amud Beis. We are starting on Chav Gimel Amud Aleph on the Gemara that we had already just done yesterday. We're just going to run through it again quickly. Tani Idach says the Gemara about a little bit more than halfway down. Tani Idach Hanichnas Bezakisa Gavua Chaletz Fila Baruch Yidal Ram Suminichem Mechalon Asamak Lo Shus Harabim. Somebody is coming to a Bezakisa Kavua. I mean, he's coming into a established bathroom in those days, an outhouse, and he's wearing a tefillin. Again, as we pointed out, most people wore tefillin, perhaps. This Gemara is right. They wore tefillin all day. So somebody's coming to Beis Hakisa. He's wearing his tefillin. What should he do? Take off the tefillin ready when it's 4 amos away from the bathroom. And as you put it by the window, excuse me, that is next to the Rishos Harab Manichnas, and then he should enter. And when he comes out of the bathroom, he should walk 4 amos, and then put the tefillin back on. Basil, no, Basil disagrees. According to Basil, you can come into the bathroom while wearing the tefillin. You don't have to take off the tefillin when you're 4 amos away from the bathroom. You could wear the tefillin when you walked in. I'm sorry, you can hold the tefillin in your hand when you're walking in to the bathroom. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you don't hold them in your hand when you walk in, you are holding them in your bag when you walk in. It says more. Does that mean literally in your baggage? It could be it'll fall out, and then it's gonna, drop, and it's gonna be bad to have this film falling out in an outhouse. So rather, the Gemara says for Rabbi Kiva, rather what it means is you hold it in your beged and in your hand, and that's how you come into the bathroom. Now, according to Beis Hillel and according to Rabbi Kiva, when you come into the bathroom, you're holding the tefillin, whether you're holding it in your hand or you're holding it in your beged in your hand. Either way, you're coming in there with the tefillin, and then you put them in the chayrim, in the holes that are next to the Beis Hakisei. As opposed to what Beishamai had said, which was you put it by the chalaim, which is next to the Rosh Hashanah. According to so you take them all the way in. Don't put it by the holes that are next to the Rosh Hashanah. Again, Beishamai said put it by the windows. Much of the window is the hole. Maybe the window was a hole. In any event, the halacha is, according to the way Beis Hillel we keep learning, you do not put it by the chalaim maspuchim Rosh Hashanah. Why Shem because maybe the passers-by are going to come along and take it, and it's going to come to cause chshad. What is the chshad situation? We had a ma'aseh. We had a situation where there was a Talmud who put his tefillin in the holes that were next to Rosh Hashanah. And a Zayna came along and took it. And she came to the with the tefillin and said, "Look, this is what this guy gave me as a sky for my services." Once this student heard this, what they were saying about him, and he went up and committed suicide. So the halacha was changed. So you cannot. They made a takana. They made a halacha that you come into the bathroom holding your tefillin, and therefore you do not put it by the chayim masmuchlim lev. So therefore the Ivor cannot take it. Now again, we revisit this idea: what used to happen and what happens now. Tanar Rabbanim Rishana Menichan Tefillin. This we did not do yet. So this is new Gemara. Tanar Rabbanim Rishana Menichan Tefillin B'chanas Mukhl Beis Hakisei. In the beginning, they used to put the tefillin in the holes that were Samach Beis Hakisei. Uboyin Achbarim V'Noit L'Noison, and they Achbars, the whatever various weasels, mice, rats, etc. came along and would take the tefillin. I'm not sure what exactly would be the reason for that, but that's what they did. So his skill, they made it takana. So you see that actually earliest in time they used to put it next to the Beis Hakisei, and then they would have these various animals come along and take it. So then they put it by the chalonis, which were next to the Rosh Hashanah, which is the shita of Beis Shammai. And then the people came along and would take it passers by, and that caused a chshad situation. So it's going to next to made a new takana. What was the new takana? Like we said from Beis Hillel, and we said from Rekiva that they would hold it in the hand. Or Rikiva says you hold it in the hand and the clothing. So this one is clearly going to Beis Hillel. That you hold it in your hand and you come into the bathroom. So Amar Rav Mesha Bar Bray. The side says not Bray. The Rabbi Shimon Levi. It's Bar Bray. And later on, when we're going to get to the Gemara later on Chavdal on the base, so then I will explain that further about the story of Bar Bray the Rabbi Shimon Levi. So, but not for right now. Says the Gemara, so Mesha, the grandson of Rabbi Shimon Levi said, "Halacha goylan come in sefer." Halacha is when you come into the bathroom, you're goyla the tefillin like a sefer, and you hold it in your right hand. So you roll it up, and you hold it in your right hand. Keneged liboy, opposite your heart. It gets a little bit odd. The keneged liboy was saying it's opposite your heart on your right hand, because if you remember before, we said which was we learned out what does it mean. Right, the pasuk said "Kshartim lois al yodecha v'hu tatavis bein einecha." Right, so we learned out already before. The Gemara in Gimel and Beis told us that the you put on the geva yad, right, the tefillin you put by the bicep was to be connected the lave. So here we're saying that would be the left hand. Here we're saying is eichsen biyad v'nichnas. Here you're just holding it. The Gemara is saying that Ramesh is, in the name of Shimon Levi is changing it a bit from what we said. We said before that was Eichzim B'Yadav Nichnas. Now we're saying it's Eichzim B'Minoi Keneged Liboy. And that is a little bit different than what we said before, which was you putting on the gavel of your arm on your left arm, and that's Keneged the Lev. Here we're saying it's you're holding in your right hand, it's not on your bicep even, and that's also Keneged the Lev. Regardless, so that is what the halakha is going to be based upon all these different problems that we had with figuring out what to do with tefillin. So presumably, again, people wear tefillin all day. So now you come into the bathroom, you have your tefillin on. And they don't have clean bathrooms like we have nowadays. They have bathrooms outside, outhouses. So what do? So they tried putting it inside the holes, and basically said the Akbar came. They put it outside the Echshad prom. So they said, okay, you have to hold it in your hand. You have to hold it in your hand. It's not, how is that going to work? So the basic idea was if your girl come in safer, if you can roll it up and then hold it in your hand, connected lebar, that would be the best and most appropriate way to deal with this phone. Again, not the most ideal way. The ideal way would be you put this phone away in a place that's not taking it into the bathroom. But because of various problems, they had to actually come in with its phone. All right, but that's only provided that after you rolled it up, it's not the having the ritzuas flying around a tefach, as we're going to see later on Chavdal Mouth, the Gemara is going to tell us that it's also to have the bias or the Ritzuas go flying around. So that's why when you become like I said, you have to make sure you do a good job that it's not going to be having Ritzuas floating around. Finish the Gemara. Amar of Yaakov. This whole idea of having the tefillin in your arm, in your hand, carrying it, girdle like a safer, make sure the rituals are not flapping. All of that is only if the situation we are planning to put it back on. Right? It's only within enough time of day that you're going to be putting the tefillin back on. But if there's no time left during the day to put the tefillin back on, in other words, you're going to the bathroom, it's already going to be night, and we know that the Lila is not Zman Tefillin. So in that situation, then when you're not intending to put the tefillin on again, you're going to the bathroom. You make it a pouch for the tefillin. You make a tefillin zekel. You put some sort of a bag that the tefillin are going to go inside. And that's where you put the tefillin. That's where you would come in with to the bathroom. Then it's like you're putting away for the day. So Rabbi going safer during the day. What you do is your girdle that's filling like a safer menichem biyad connected when you put it in your hand. Again, not like Ramesh said menichem b'minai, right? Connected liba. Here it's menichem biyad connected liba. Uba when there's no going to be any more time left to wear the tefillin, so then I just come in kiss tefach. And then at night, when you're putting what it's filling, whether you go into the bathroom or not, just in general, you put into a kiss that has a tefach of space. Again, the tefach of space is going to create a situation where it will be mafsik for any sort of tumah issues whatsoever. So the Gemara, so that's how we are going to take care of the tefillin. Now the Gemara adds an additional point. The Gemara says as follows. When do we say that you have to have a kiss that has to have a tefach? That's only if it's the normal clear for this tefillin. If you're going to have a tefillin zakel, then that thing has to have a space in it. And I feel the pockets tefach. But if it's a clear that doesn't normally have a usage for the tefillin, it happens to be currently being used to the tefillin, so then even if less than a tefach, it would still be sufficient. Amar Zudra v'tem Rav Ashi. So Mezuzah says in the name of Rashi, Tedesher Pakintan Matzim Be'olam Meis. He says that even small Pakintanim, by Pakintanim, like by Yaakov Avinu, are able to be Matzah Be'olam Meis from Tumah. How that works, I'm not 100% sure. We did have a Gemara later, earlier on New Testament base, but the Gemara said that it was Dvar Torah, that the halacha was Kol Sheyesh Bechal Tefach, was chayzis b'fnei atumah. Chal tefach and chayzis b'fnei atumah. So it didn't seem to make a difference whether or not it was pachim tanim or not. It seems to say that it was a dvar Torah, that if it has a chal tefach, then it's going to be a chayzis, and if not, not. So we're going to have to leave that on the side. Continues the Gemara of Amar Rabba Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Chana says that when he was going behind Rabbi Yochanan and Gavibar Lamei Lebeis Hakise. When Rabbi Yochanan was going to the bathroom, and you might ask, why was he going behind him when he was going on the way to the bathroom? As we have already pointed out, that the Gemara later on in Samach Beis is going to tell us different rabbis who act in a way that we might frankly seem somewhat inappropriate. Tanya Rabbi Kiva, Pamachas Nachnas Dach Rabbi Yeshua Lebeis Hakise, L'Lamanat Timimenu Gimel Dvarim. Or when the Gemara says that Ben Azai went after Bekiva to the bathroom, or a situation where Rav Kahana went to Rav's bedroom, things like this, which seem to be all outside the realms of normalcy. But Torah he will on Yitzarach. So Omer Rav Kahana Kavaz Lina Basar Rabbi Yochanan Gavibaz Lumei Lubeis Akise. When I was going behind Rabbi Yochanan when he was going to the bathroom, Gavinok et Sifra de Agada to Aviyovlin. When he was carrying a sefer of Agadata, he would give it to us. So no, first of all, the Gemara in Gittin Samach tells us they would look into Svarim of Agadata on Shabbos. Obviously, this situation where they were able to carry on Shabbos, whatever, maybe this is about that situation when they were carrying a sefer of Agadata, not 100% clear. Now, the truth is, as we may have already mentioned, Rabbi Shmuel Levi says the person is not supposed to mistake with Sifra Degarata, right? That's Yerushalmi in Mesach Shabbos, Parak Tazayin, Halacha Aleph. But nevertheless, it's clear that the Sfarim of Agarata were written down, even if the Talmud itself at that time was not yet written down. So when they had a Sefer of Agarata, he would give it to them. He wouldn't take it into the bathroom. But you have a knock-at tefillin lo yoavlan. But if he was wearing the tefillin, or if he was holding the tefillin, then he wouldn't be giving it to them. Why? Because Amar, Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbanon, since we had all this whole stories about how they once, would take the tefillin and put them in the holes inside the Beis HaKisei, and then put it in the holes of the chalonis outside by the Rosh Hashanah, and then they had problems with the achbars when they put it inside, the problems with the Arvei Devachim when they put it outside, and kahena v'chahena, the problems they had until they said, okay, you go into the bathroom, you are going to hold it, either hold it in your right hand, and put it in a tick, put the tied Kamin Sefer, don't have rituals dangling. All of this was essentially takanas of the rabbis, where presumably there was no other person that you could give the tefillin to watch it for you. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yochanan is taking a step further than the way we thought, which was that here, where he has Rabbi Barchana who could hold the tefillin for him, he wouldn't ask him to do so. Once there was a takana that you could take the tefillin into the bathroom, he said, Rabbanan, since the rabbis already were matir, us taking the tefillin into the bathroom, Nenatron, let me take into the bathroom with me, and if I'm taking it into the bathroom with me, then I'm going to be able to have it help me and watch me, protect me from the mazikin, as Rashi says. Now, I just say this in a bit of a jocular fashion. The tefillin is going to protect you from the mazikin, but the tefillin wasn't able to protect from the achbarim. The tefillin wasn't able to protect from the Arvei Devachim. The tefillin, all these stories that we had that caused the different reasons about why a person could to take the tefillin inside, because of the fact that none of the tefillin wasn't providing a good enough shmira. So how is it going to protect you from the mazikim? Nevertheless, perhaps it's easier to protect from mazikim than it is to protect from the Arvei Devachim, and easier to protect from the achbarim. Later on, the Gemara Samach Beis is going to tell us, on Samach Amud Beis is going to tell us that Anichnas Lebeis HaKisei should make a Yehi Ratzin, that he's going to say, what is he going to say? Skabdu Mechubadim, a person who's going to go into the Beis HaKisei should say Kedoshim Misher say Elyon, they should be protecting the Hamalachim that come with the person, should protect him when he's going to the Beis HaKisei. Why? Because there are the problems there that they could be shading around. But the Gemara there says, on Samach Beis Amud Aleph, that Kol Tzanu B'Beis HaKisei Nitzal Mi Gimel Dvarim Nechashim Akrovim Mazikim. If somebody's a Tzanu on the Beis HaKisei, there's going to be protected from Mazikim. So that is itself a Shmira without the Tefillin. Okay, maybe you want a double Shmira. In any event, where we are in the Gemara is the top line of the Gemara. Gemara says a similar Maisa, but this time with Rav Nachman. Amar Rava Kiav Aslin Basri Rav Nachman Gav Nagat Sefer Dagat to Yavlan. Again, same thing. If he was going to the bathroom, the Sefer Dagat, he would give it to us. Gav Nagat Tefillin Lo Yavlan. But if he was going with Tefillin, he wouldn't give it to us. Amar Hov Shem Rabbanan and Nachman. Since the rabbis are doing matir, taking it inside the bathroom. Therefore, I'll use it. I'll bring it in with me to protect me. Continues the Gemara. Tana Rabbanan Layichaz Adam Tefillin Biyadei V'Sefer Torah B'Zrav Yispal. A person shouldn't hold the tefillin in his hands or the Sefer Torah in his arm when he's davening. Why? Rashi says she ain't died to me Yeshavas Alav, because the person's not going to be able to be focused on the tefillah. Sheri Liboy Tamar Alein Shalibul Miyadei, because he's always going to be on his mind that the things that he's holding shouldn't be falling down. It's funny, we already had this lashon of Rashi Shein died to me Yeshavas Alav. It's we actually had this Gemara earlier on Tazayin Amnaf. We talked about different trees, Pilam Balabais, diving in trees, saying Shema in a tree, the differences, different kind of trees, bigger canopies, smaller canopies, and the more you use the lashon, she'ain da'atim yushavasalav. That Rashi is cribbing over here. That if somebody's holding a Sefer Torah in his hand, how's he going to have kavanah? And if he has too much kavanah, he's going to drop the Torah, drop the tefillin. So he won't have so much kavanah in order to make sure that he doesn't drop them, in which case, again, you have a problem of not davening with the requisite kavanah. So a person shouldn't daven while he's holding a tefillin or a sefer Torah. V'lo yashtim behem mayim. And a person shouldn't be holding the tefillin when he is going to the bathroom. Number one, we're talking about, to be clear. Now again, we have to make it clear, we're not talking here about a person wearing tefillin, because obviously that's not going to be okay. We're talking about lo yochaz adam tefillin b'yadav sefer Torah b'zrav yispal. A person should be holding tefillin in his hand when he damaged Shemona Esrei, v'lo yashtim ben mayim, and he shouldn't be going to the bathroom, shouldn't be making mei raglayim when he's what? Holding the tefillin. Of course, that's what we're about, holding the tefillin, not wearing the tefillin. Obviously, this is a situation where a person came to the bathroom and he's able to hold the tefillin in his hand. Again, the takana of the rabbis. And the person shouldn't sleep with the tefillin, whether it's a shinas kev or shinas ara, as Rashi points out. The issue with shina is a situation of passing wind. Says the Gemara, Mar Shmuel, Shmuel adds a few additional things. Person down is holding a knife, money. As Rashi points out, the kaira is not just a china dish. There's a kaira is laden with food. There's food in it. Or a kikar or a loaf. All these things the person shouldn't be holding when he's davening. Again, because of the fact that he's going to be he's going to be concerned. Maybe the sakin's going to fall and it's going to hurt him, or maybe the kaira is going to be falling and the contents will be falling out, or the money's going to be lost, or the kikar, the bread is going to be falling, get dirty and disgusting. So Shmuel says Haril Kietz, and all these are similar. Basically, if you're holding anything that's going to cause you to be concerned about the thing that you're holding and not about the tefillah that you're davening, that's all going to be problematic and you shouldn't do it. This is the Gemara until here. Says the Gemara, my Rav, we're at the small, last of the narrow lines. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Sheishes, less Hilchasuk Yavas Nisaloch is not like this brisa. We're going to have, again, on Chaf Hey, in Aleph, we're going to have a similar line of Rava. Over there, it's in the intermediate wide lines, about 4 or 5, 6 or 7 lines down from the beginning of the intermediate wide lines. The Gemara there says also Amar Rava less hilchos like Yom Asnis. The halach is not like this brayso. It's not a very common line in Shas. 2 times in Shas we find it from Rava. Once we find it by Rav. This being said, so Rav is saying the name of Sheshis in both of these places. I'm sorry, in this place Rav is saying the name of Sheshis. In the next place Rav is just saying the same Atzmai. So Rav is saying that the halacha is not like the brayso that we just quoted. Meaning the brayso is very nice. The person shouldn't be holding the tefillin when he's going to the bathroom. But Rav says that's not the halacha. Why? The Beis Shammai, because this is the position of Beis Shammai. The Beis Hillel, because the position of Beis Hillel is hashta Beis Hakisa Kavua Shari, Beis Hakisa Arami Boya. Because if it was Beis Hillel, then Beis Hillel we already know holds not like Beis Shammai, right? Beis Shammai had told us that the halacha was that the person has to take off the tefillin tal before he gets into the Beis Hakisa, and when he gets into the Beis Hakisa, he puts in the bachalon, and then he can go to the bathroom. Beisil disagree. Beisil said no. You hold it in your hand. So according to Beisil, you're going into the bathroom, you're holding it in your hand, and you're able to go to the bathroom while you're holding it. So this one says means that you're holding the tefillin, you're not saying you're not allowed to go to the bathroom. Well, that's Beis Shammai. It's not Beisil. Beisil says you could. The Beis Hillel hash the Beis Hakisa kavua By of course you're able to hold its tefillin. Basically, that is the whole point of this takana that the rabbis did, because you couldn't put in the charin. That was some of the Beis you couldn't put in the charin of the chalonis. That was some of the sarabim. So they ended up in a situation where it's not ideal. But they said you can end up holding the tefillin in your hand and go to the bathroom. So it can't be hillel the hash to Beis Kavua by a regular outhouse, by a normative, by a kavua de Beis Hakisa. You're able to do this. So basically, I mean, boy, if our situation of Vayashtim Mamayim is someone's situation, it's not an actual outhouse. Someone's just going to the bathroom, meaning it's a basic kisei arai. He's making this area that he's going to the bathroom right now into a basic kisei arai. So in such a situation, you're going to think that the halachas he can't hold this film. Of course, he could hold this filling over there, obviously. So therefore, this brayso must be going with Beis Shammai that says that you can't, and therefore that's not the halacha. This is what Rav said in Rav Sheshes. Fred the Gemara, Meisvel, I'll ask you a question. The Varm Shei Tarti L'Chakan, Asarti L'Chakan. The Brisa continues. The Brisa says that there are certain things that I asked for you in one area, and I mated them for you in another area. What does that mean? What does it mean, Devarim Shei Tarti L'Chakan? Things that I mated for you here, I asked us L'Chakan. I asked them for you elsewhere. What does it mean? My love, says the Gemara. What are we obviously talking about? It's tefillin. Obviously, we're talking about tefillin. So, Amis Bishlama, Beis Hillel. So, if we're going to say that the story is Beis Hillel, so then it ties to the Chakan Kavua. I can answer up to you, Beis Hillel, and say that when it comes to Beis Hakisa Kavua, it's mutter to walk in holding the tefillin. Nevertheless, aside to the Chakan, Beis Hakisa Arai. But when it comes to Beis Hakisa Arai, I asked it up for you to hold its tefillin. Are you going to say, how does that work? What's the reason for that? The logic would be that Beis Hillel says, by Beis Hakisa Kavua, then you're going to come in, we mated you to come in and to hold the tefillin. But by a case of Beis Hakisa Arai, over there in that situation, since it's a situation where it's Arai, it's a situation where you're effectively creating into Beis Hakisa now, so then we say no. Then it will be awesome. So the Gemara says if that's the case, then it would work with Beis Hillel fine. But if you're going to tell me that it's Beis Shammai, then I don't understand. But Beis Shammai never finds a time that it's mutter. According to Beis Shammai, you're not able to come to a regular Beis Hakisei, but it's filling on in the first place. You have to take it off. 4 amos away from the Beis Hakisei. Then you have to put in the chayrin that are samach Beis Hakisei. So you never have the opportunity. You never have the opportunity, according to, according to Beis Shammai, you have to put it in the chaloin samach Rabim. You never have the opportunity to be holding the tefillin in the bathroom. That's a Beis Hakisei kavua. And according to Beis Shammai, even by basic Kisei Ara, you're not going to have the ability to be holding the tefillin. And so, when do you have the situation of how you're able to mekayim and this idea of dvarim sheitar to the chakan, asar to the chakan? That's certain things that I was mat to you in one place that I asked you in another place. According to Beis Shammai, it's always aser. It's never mutter. So, Rav wanted to say in the name of Rav Sheshes that this brisa that said that it's us to be oiches the tefillin and be mashtin had to be going with Beis Shammai. It couldn't be going with Beis Hillel. Why? Because Beis Shammai, that the Rav said in the name of Sheshes that this brisa that says that you're also to be oiches the tefillin and be mashtin had to be not like the halacha. Why? Because it has to be going with Beis Shammai. Because Beis Shammai says it's also to be eiches and tefillin and mashtin. You have to go and put them at a chalon and samach l'shus rabim. But Beis Hillel said because of the various situations that occurred that you are able to be eiches and tefillin in the bathroom. So therefore, said Rav in the name of Sheshes, this brayse that says that's us to be eiches and tefillin and mashtin can't be going with Beis Hillel. It must be going with Beis Shammai. The Gemara asked if that's the case, then what does it mean? Dvarim sheitar to l'chakan, asar to l'chakan. If that's talking about Beis Shammai, that doesn't make any sense because Beis Shammai is answering always. Beis Shammai always says it's aser to be eiches the tefillin, whether it's Beis Hakisei Kavua or Beis Hakisei Arai. He's always holding that it's aser to be holding the tefillin and be mashtin. The only person who holds that sometimes also sometimes it's mutter by the basic he says Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel says by basic he say kavua, then it's mutter to be oiches. But basic he say all right, we have options, you have abilities to move in different places. So then it's us to be oiches, and the tefillin would be mashtim. So for Beis Hillel, it would make sense. And then the Bras would go with Beis Hillel, and not like what Rava says in the name of Rav Sheish. This is the Gemara's question at this stage. Says the Gemara, no, it doesn't have to be like that. It could be that we're not talking about tefillin anymore. And what we're really saying when we say Dvarim Sheitar to the Chakan or Sa'ar to the Chakan doesn't have anything to do with tefillin, but rather has to do with something else. And what does that have to do with? Is when somebody's going to the bathroom, somebody's going to the washroom, what he's able to megala. Tefach Tvachayim. For those who are remembering the Gemara in the Dharm on Chafam Beis, the Gemara says about Rabbi Elazar ben Horkenes. They asked Ima Shalom, the wife of Rabbi Elazar ben Horkenes, right? Why was she zeichet to have such wonderful children? And she said, among the things, right, is that her husband was megala tefach and mechasa tefach. What does he megala tefach mechasa tefach? It means that uncovered and covered parts of the body. At least that's what the seeming meaning was over there. Not necessarily everybody says exactly the same, but for our purpose to see if that is what we're talking about. Kitanya he has nothing to do with tefillin. When we're saying Dvarim Sheitar to the Chakan or Sa'ar to the Chakan has nothing to do with tefillin. It has to do with how much a person is able to megal when he goes to the bathroom. As follows. Says the Gemara, the Tani Chad, we have one brass that teaches us Kishu, Nifna Megal Lacher Tefach Lufana Tvachayim. We have one brass that says that when a person is going to the bathroom, so he's Megal Lacherov, right, on the back part, he's Megal Tefach, and the front part is Megal Tvachayim, two Tefachs. The Tani Dach, we have another brass that says Lacherov Tefach Lufana V'Loi that on the back, he's Megal Tefach, and in the front, he's not Megal Tefach at all, nothing. So what do we have? We basically have that two versions, two brises, both of which say that Megal Lacher Tefach, and one says that the fun of is Megal Tefachayim, and the other that says is not Megala at all. So these two brises seem to be contradicting each other. So what does it mean? My love. What must these two brises be referring to? Obviously not steers with each other. We're obviously coming to talk about similar things. What are we talking about? My love, ID be'ish. Most of these brises are talking about a man. V'lo kashan, it's not a stira. It's not a stira. You're going to say, well, one brise has that lefanav, you could be megal tvachayim, and one brise has you can't be megal at all. It's not a stira. V'lo kashan, kan l'gdalim, kan l'ktanim. It's the difference between gedalim and ktanim. If it's a situation where a person is going to be effectively, having to go to the bathroom, from the front side, so he's going to be megal tvachayim. But if he doesn't, then he's going to only be megal from the back, and he's not going to be megal from the front at all. So that's the difference. So when we say Dvarim Sheitar lo Chakan or Sa'ar lo Chakan, it means that sometimes it's permitted to be megala in the front, and sometimes not megala in the front, right? Sometimes permitted, sometimes not permitted. It says the Gemara. One second. If you're saying that what we're talking about here is for gedalim and ketanim, and that when you're doing gedalim, so you're only going to megala tefach in the back and nothing in the front, and megala ketanim in the front two tefachs, in the back one tefach. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. The Tizbra, I don't understand. If that's your distinction between these two brises to say that they're not contradicting each other, and therefore you then have a situation. But I don't understand. Says the Tizbra, if we're talking about a situation of ketanim that we say megal lefanav tvachayim, I don't understand why in the back lacher of tefach lo amali. Why does it say in the back that megal tefach? I understand for gedolim. You want him to say lacher of tefach and lefanav leiklum. I understand. You want to say lektanim that you megal tvachayim. I understand. But why is it lacher also tefach? But if it's a situation where he's going for tanim, then he should only megal in the front. The Tefachayim, you shouldn't be megal in the back at all. Says the Gemara, I have to come up with a different distinction. Must be both talking about gedolim. So both situations, both of these brides talking about somebody's going to the bathroom for gedolim, not for tanim. V'loi kasha, it's not a stira. Ha be'ish, ha be'isha. One is talking about a man, one's talking about a woman. So when a man's going for gedolim, it's talking about both gedolim. When a man's going for gedolim, so he has to be gal tefach. And because it's going to be likely that when he's going for gedolim, that katanim can also come about. So therefore, he's able to be gal tefachayim from the front. But the other price that says Migal Teva from the back, but not from the front at all, that's because it's talking about the Isha. So thereffor, even if she has Tanim, she doesn't have to Megala a Tefach or Tvachayim. So that's how you would explain this, and this then would explain Dvam Shetat L'Chakan, Asad L'Chakan. Because we're talking about a man and woman in a situation where they're both going to the bathroom for Gedolim. Says more, if that's true, if this is true, then this that we said later on in that very brisa, this is a kavachem that doesn't have a tshuva on it. What does it mean? My ain alav tshuva. What does it mean that it hasn't got a tshuva on it? So this is exactly the normative way. That's what we're discussing. It's not a kavachem she'en alav tshuva. This is exactly right. For a man who's going to go for gedolim, it makes sense. He might have katanim. He has to megalit fachem lefanav. A woman is going for gedolim, and maybe she's going to have katanim as well. It doesn't have to megala anything. What does it mean? It's a kavachem that hasn't got a tshuva. I don't understand. It's pashit. It's a pashut situation of what we're talking about. We're talking about a situation that's normative. It's not a kavachem that doesn't have a tshuva on it. So says the Gemara, that was the next line from the Brisa. So says the Gemara, then this attempt to try to explain what is the dvarim she'etat l'chakan or sa'it l'chakan, should be talking about a tefach or tvachayim, is dying now on the battlefield of the end of the Brisa that says this is a kavachem and it hasn't got a tshuva on it. Doesn't make any sense to do a tefach or tvachayim in the way we are enumerating this brisa that says that megal tefach lacharel and megal tvachayim l'fanel, and then the other brisa says megal tefach lacharel but l'fanel v'lo klum. That stira, if we end up in a situation where we have to say that it's talking about man and woman, then that is going to be a very sensible thing, be given with situations of each, of male and female anatomy, physiology, etc. And I don't make any sense to say that this is a kavachem that hasn't got a tshuva on it. There's no such thing. Selalav, says the Gemara, tefillin. We must be going back to talking about tefillin. And if we're going back to talk about tefillin, then what do we mean practically? For all practical intents and purposes, if we're talking about tefillin, and when we say dvarim she'etat l'chakan, asad l'chakan, what must it mean? It must mean that what we're talking about is that things that I'm matu you in a basic kisa kavua to come in with your tefillin holding it in the hand. I'm not matuing basic kisa arai to do the same. Basic kisa arai, you can't hold the tefillin in your hand. You're obviously choosing where to go to the bathroom, so you can put it down in a way that before you go to the bathroom. So therefore, if the Dvarim She'etat L'Chalkan or Sa'it L'Chalkan is only about tefillin, therefore it only works for Beis Hillel, because Beis Shammai says it's always Asur, Beis Hakisi Kavua, Beis Hakisi Arai, no difference. It's always Asur to be holding the tefillin when you go into the bathroom. So therefore then this brisa is not like what Rav said in the name of Sheish, that this brisa of a person can't be Eichaz at tefillin and be Mashtem Mayim, which we said has to be going like Beis Shammai. That clearly cannot be correct, cannot be sustained with the rest of the brisa, which can only accord with Beis Hillel. So therefore, says the Gemara, Elav must be going with tefillin. To Yufta the Rava, Rav Sheshes to Yufta. And this is now a question on Rava, the name of Sheshes, and that's a bomb kasha that slugs him up. Mikol Bagam kasha says the Gemara, but nevertheless, still question. Right, so now that you've explained that the situation of Dvarim She'etat L'Chalkan or Sa'it L'Chalkan makes it clear that this brisa has to go with Beis Hillel and not like Beis Shammai, but I still have the question. The question is that Beis Hillel would matter you to go to a Beis Hakisa Kavua with holding the tefillin, and over here we're saying Lo Yochazon tefillin and V'lo Yashtim B'hem. You're not able, you're not permitted to go to the bathroom holding the tefillin and going to the bathroom, which would sound like not correct with what the position is of Beis Hillel. Now you might have thought, well, why don't I just answer? Well, maybe this is before the Gzera, after the Gzera. Well, that the Gemara doesn't want to go that direction for whatever reasons. Perhaps because that would also make it irrelevant then to Beis Shammai. Perhaps for other reasons. But at this stage, the Gemara, that's not an option for an answer. We have to come up with a substantive answer. What's the substantive answer? We have a good question. The Dvarim She'etat L'Chalkan or Sa'it L'Chalkan can only be going with Beis Hillel. That I agree. But the first part, which tells us that it's also to be Yochaz Adam the tefillin and be Mashtem Mayim, that doesn't accord with Beis Hillel. So what are we going to answer? It says something more like this. Hash to Beis Mikom Makom Kash, never still question. Hash to Beis Hakisa Kavua Shari, Beis Hakisa Ara Koshik, and shouldn't Beis Hakisa Ara should also for sure be potter. So, and Beis Hillel shouldn't say that. And nevertheless, we see that Beis Hillel, who is holding that it is permitted to go to the Beis Hakisei Kavua with the tefillin. Here we're saying that it's usher, and it doesn't make any sense. A person should for sure be able, if he's going to the Beis Hakisei Kavua with holding the tefillin while he's going to the bathroom, while he's making Merek Laim, so Beis Hakisei Are should be the same. So the Gemara answers, Hachikam, this is what we mean to say. Beis Hakisei Kavua the Lekon Itzaitzais. Shari. Why is Beis Hillel mimater a person to be oiches and tefillin and be mashtem Beis Hakisei Kavua because somehow the Beis Hakisei Kavua is not going to be the tzaitzes. I'm not sure exactly why there's not much the tzaitzes in Beis Hakisei Kavua, but that is the assumption. But Beis Hakisei Are, Beis Hakisei that you're just creating right now, but you're going to the bathroom, you get tzaitzes. Over there will be the tzaitzes. So then ask you. So that's why Beis Hillel is asking. So therefore you can't ask me a question about the fact that Beis Hillel says it's mutter to mashtamayim and echas tefillin. So why over here is he saying it's also echas the tefillin be mashtamayim? The answer is the difference in the Beis Hakisei, in the Beis Hakisei Kavua, Beis Hakisei Ara in terms of nitzaitis. Beis Hakisei Kavua has no nitzaitis, so therefore it will be more mako. Beis Hakisei Ara has nitzaitis, therefore we will be less makos. Now it comes out that this whole brisa could go with Beis Hillel and could go aliba the hilchasa. Says the Gemara, Yachi. Then what about the end? So now we've explained that the first part of the brayso can go with Beis Hillel to explain why a person is lo yochaz adam the tefillin and mashtim mayim. We're talking about a basic kisei, alright, which has nitzaitis. And now we understand we understand that also because that refers to a basic kisei kavua, a basic kisei ara, basic kisei kavua is the dvam sheitat l'chakan, and basic kisei ara which has nitzaitis is also hard to l'chakan. I understand that as well. So what about the last part of the brisa? The part that says about Ayihachi, right? The brisa that says Zeu Kavachem Shenel Tshuva is a Kavachem that hasn't got a good, hasn't got a tshuva on it. What do we mean? So the Gemara says as follows. It says the Ayihachi Amayin love tshuva. What does it mean? It doesn't have a tshuva on it. Tshuva Ma'ayasi. You have a great answer. You have a wonderful answer. Explain what the difference between basic kisei kavua and basic kisei arai. Says the Maraki Gomer is what we mean to say. Ha milsa taste libertarius time of taste you This explanation, this can be understood, but Taris Taima can be understood with a logical reason, logical explanation, and not. And I don't need to resort to Kavacham and say, well, say for sure, it's basic kisei kavua. Talach is more to the basic kisei arai for sure. No, here we have a good explanation for explaining the distinction between a basic kisei kavua and a basic kisei arai. So therefore, hachikam hamilsa tasely b'teres taima, but like tasely b'teres kavachem. You're going to be explaining to me with a good logical reason, and I'm not going to be using kavachem. The isa asi b'teres kavachemer, so kavachem shein lo tshuva. Because if you're going to be telling me it's a kavachem, I wouldn't have a tshuva. Because obviously it's pashut that if the basic kisei kavua it's mutter, then for sure basic kisei arai should be mutter. So therefore, I can't actually use kavachem to teach me what the halacha will be. The halacha has to be what the teres taima is, what the reasoning is, what the logical, substantive, inferential reasoning is, and that of course makes basic kisei kavua more mekeldik than a basic kisei arai because of the nitzaitis that are in a base hakisei arai, which the basic kisei kavua doesn't have. But normally we would have thought the other way. We would have said a basic kisei kavua is going to be mutter, and a basic kisei arai should for sure be mutter. And that's why I need to have a teres taima. And but if I didn't, then it would be a kavachem shenel of tshuva. I would have to learn it out that even if a basic kisei arai has nitzaitis, nevertheless it has to be mutter because the basic kisei kavua is mutter. That is the Gemara until the two dots. Continues the Gemara. Tana Rabbanon haraitza likanis the seudas keva. If somebody wants to come and sit down for a meal, mahalach ayar asar parim dal amis. Either one version is you should go walk 10 times 4 amis, or dal parim yud amis. Or should walk around 4 times Yud Amis. V'if, and then you should go to the bathroom. All right, as we know that dancing, right, physical activity can help cause somebody to go to the bathroom. And then you come in to eat the meal. Yitzchak hanechnas l'seudas keva chaylet tefillah. Somebody's coming to eat in a kvudik suda. He should take off his tefillin. And then he should enter the meal. Please, Rav Chia. Rav Chia disagrees. Rav Chia says, "Manichan al shulchanai v'chein hadurloi." Right? It's a nice thing. It's a hider for the tefillin. If you put it onto the table, right, it shows you're going to pick it up right away after the meal. So this is a machlokes between Yitzchak and Rav Chia, in relation to what is the proper etiquette, the proper performance of somebody coming to eat the meal. Does he take off the tefillin before he comes into the meal, or does he come into the meal with the tefillin on and puts it on the table? That Amos Amram Nachman Bar Yitzchak. And how far does this from Nachman how far does this go? Amram Nachman Bar Yitzchak Adzman Bracha. Right? Until the time of the blessing, until the time of the bracha. Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, V'chein haduloi, I'm sorry, Rashi, V'chein hiduloi, sheyu mizumanim loi, v'yachsav yanichim shas bracha, and then you should be able to put him on, he'll be ready, he'll be prepared for him to be able to make the bracha. So, the Gemara says as follows, Tini, Chad, we have one verse that says, Tzara Adam Tfilav im ma'isa ba'afriku susai. One verse says the person could be putting his tefillin with his money in his Afrika susai. That is a term that we are going to come across later on. That the halacha is that somebody could put his tefillin. Somebody could put his spit, right? Afrika susa, the Gemara Chavdalim and base. We're gonna have in a couple of days. The Gemara says that if somebody has spit when in the middle of davening, so we'll get to that kind of situation. So and it's ruts and all of that, but he should be mavliya ba'afrik susa. He should sort of have it be spit out, swallowed up by his head covering. It sounds like they had some sort of a rag or whatever in the head covering, or maybe the head covering was made out of that. So that's where you can get rid of it. So one of the things that we're saying when somebody's coming into a meal. So we have a brayse that says, "Sir Adam Tfilov in Ma'isa ba'Afrika Susa." He put his tefillin and his money in the head covering. The Tiny Edo, we have another brayse that says, "Lo Yatzor," that you're not able to do so. So it sounds like it's a stira. Like kasha had azamne had azamne. Right? It's a difference between the preparation. It's a difference between the prep for this head covering for the tefillin. Rashi explains, "Lahu sudar letefillin the kevin da azam neshuv aser lotzer b'mois me'achshei kitzu lokach." Once you've said that this head covering is going to be used to also to hold its tefillin, so it's really not appropriate to be putting money in there anymore. You hiksu, you made it kaddish for the tefillin, so it's not available to be holding money anymore. But the one that says that you didn't have in mind yet to be using it for the tefillin, so then you can put as the Bryce said, you can put the money and the tefillin in it. It all depends on what the preparation of this object was in terms of carrying the tefillin or not. So the Gemara says, the Amar of his, the high sudra the tefillin, the azam the mitzvah tefillin. Somebody prepared a kerchief, a handkerchief, right, for the tefillin. So tsar but tefillin. Once he puts in the tefillin into the handkerchief, into the case, so then also made it's also then to put in coins. Azam nivloy tzarbe. What is the situation where a person prepared that he wants to use this thing for tefillin, but he never actually put in the tefillin once? Or tzarbe v'lezamne, or maybe put in the tefillin into something without making it prepared. Hotzu l'kach. He never sort of separated out for this. So then showing mitzvah bazuzah. Then in those situations where he had prepared it, but he never actually put in any tefillin, or he had put in tefillin, but never actually had prepared it for that. So then, in those cases, he will be able to put in money as well. Abaya the Amar Hazman Milsi, and Abaya disagrees. Abaya says Hazman is itself something. Just preparing it is a zach. So in other words, according to Rav Chizda, right? According to Rav Chizda, if you simply prepared it, even if you hadn't yet put money in, there's already a concern, but it's not going to prevent you from putting in the money, because just mere preparation is not sufficient. Similarly, if you put in the tefillin something that was not prepared, was not chutzah for tefillin, you can still put in money. It's not changed its stripes. But according to Abaye, as much as milsa, when you just merely prepare it, even if you never put a pair of tefillin inside, that's enough of something that you're not able to put in money. So Labayda Mazman Milsi Azamne Afagav Tzarbeg. Then even if you prepared and never put in money, you'll still be asked to put in money. Or Tzarbeg. But if you put in the money and you never prepared it, so yeah, as many asin. Of course, if you prepared it, then it'll be asin. Zam the loy. If you didn't prepare it then, it would not have been awesome. This is the Gemara, just to finish up the last couple of lines. Rabbi Yosef buried Rabbi Nechunya. Rabbi Yosef, as son of Rabbi Nechunya, asked the question of Rabbi Yehuda. What does it mean? Is a person allowed to put his tefillin underneath his head? Underneath his head. Putting the rocks underneath his head. We want to know if a person is able to put tefillin underneath his head when he's sleeping. Says the Gemara, Takas Margaloisav Loikam. You're not asking about putting the tefillin below his feet. Why? Shenoig Bahen meaning bizoyin, because that would be disgusting. So Kigam Barley Takas Marashoisav. We're asking only about the underneath the head, which would be considered obviously not it's not like something derisive or something that's chas shalom in any way making fun of the tefillin. So maybe it's putting it under the head in order to protect it. We already have the Gemara in Ches. Amud Aleph, right? You recall the Gemara, Taisus, etc. That when it came to a situation of listim or nachrim or the like, the halacha was Tana Rabban Melech Atzamis Makam Makam. So the halacha was v'yarkiv aleim. You're even able to sit on them. Why? It's not a night of a meaning bizayin because he's nisyor mnei nachrim mnei listim. And whatever we said, so too we say by Sefer Torah as well. For sure, it's tefillin. So you want to know, can you put the tefillin underneath your head for protection? And the answer obviously would be yes. The question is, when you're not having it for specific protection, right? Obviously, you can't put it under your feet. But the question is, what about under the head? Mutter afil ishtaim. You're able to put it under your head, even if his wife is with him. Says the Gemara, Meis, I'll ask you a question. If a person shouldn't put the tefillin underneath his feet, why? Because that's not really appropriate behavior. But he's able to put it underneath the head. Right? But if he had his wife with him, then it would be awesome. So that seems to be a steer to what we just said. We just said that Shmuel says that you are able to put the tefillin underneath your head, even if the person's wife is with him, and of course with the concern that maybe other activity will be going on. So the Gemara says, but if it was a difference between where the tefillin was and the rest of what was going on there, so Gimel Tvachim, whether it was higher or lower, so then it'll be also be mutter. So the Gemara says Tiyufta to Shmuel. This is going to be a challenge to Shmuel Tiyufta. This is going to be a bam on Shmuel because here it's clear that not like Shmuel. Shmuel said it's mutter fil ishtaim, and here we're saying that the halacha is it's awesome. So the Gemara says, Rava, I forgot to tell you to the Shmuel. Even though we say that the halacha is not like Shmuel, we asked the bomb question on Shmuel. We showed you another brisa that says that also fil ishtaimai, which is not in accordance with what Beis Shammai had said. Nevertheless, even though Tiyufta Shmuel Tiyufta, Rava adds, Rava, I forgot the time Tiyufta Shmuel, even though we are telling you that the Shmuel is upshlag, nevertheless, Rava says the halacha is, in fact, like Shmuel. We will stop here. Have a wonderful evening.